Hello, welcome back to Up the Villa. We are on opposition preview, and I've got my favourite Geordie on today, Antonio Mango, absolute legend. His analysis, his vision of scouting young players. You know, if you follow him on his socials, he'll pick up a young player, and his detail is very, very good. So I know Villa fans really like you and appreciate you. So that's a big compliment to start with. So how you doing, mate?
All good, mate. How are you? You good?
Yeah, really good, mate.
Thanks for having us on.
Yeah, pleasure, mate. You're quality. So I'll get your thoughts as a fan first then. Like, I know the ISAK situation is probably going to put a bit of a downer on what you're about to say, but how are you feeling as a fan going into this new season?
You know what? I always try and be a little bit optimistic going in any season, and I say that about any football club. Like, I understand the ISAK situation is completely derailed our transfer window, and just some Newcastle fans have completely switched off to next season. But you know what? When you think about it and put things into perspective, we're going in next season with the same kind of team, same setup. We haven't really lost anybody. Sandro Tonali's still there. Yes, we've replaced players, and we'll get onto that very shortly. But let's you just remove Alexander Isak. Our starting 11, I still think is good enough to compete with the majority in the Premier League. So based on that, we're not really. It is exciting, but it could have been more exciting because I was expecting a little bit more considering we got in Champions League, and I was thinking we're going to really try and make that step. Although we have tried to make that step, it hasn't really worked out, has it?
I mean, what you've just said, you could probably rinse and repeat that for a Villa fan.
I was going to say that as well. We're kind of in the same boat, aren't we?
Yeah. It's like we both want to kick on, but we kind of can't because of certain financial rules. We've kept the main bulk of our squad. We've both got very good managers, and little pieces are starting to happen in the transfer window for both clubs now as well. And so we've got to talk about Isak. I mean, hands down, he's the best striker in Europe. Talk to me about sort of like how we've got to this situation where yesterday it was sort of coming out that he doesn't want to ever play for Newcastle again. Like, what's gone on this summer?
Yeah, first thing I want to say is it's a sorry state of affairs, the way things are planning out. Second thing I want to say is I do not begrudge anybody that wants to move. If a player wants to move, I'd be like, you know what? You go, my blessing. You've done wonderful for us. You want to make that next step. You can go make that next step. So nothing against Liverpool, nothing against him being ambitious, because you've got to be ambitious as a footballer. I want Alexander Isak to win the Premier League. I want Alexander Isak to win the Champions League. That's what I want for the guy. So like moving to Liverpool, I was like, I'm all for it. If he goes, I'm all for it. The one thing I disagree with is the way he's conducted himself. I think just as a human being, there's a human side to this. You've played with these lads, your teammates for the past couple of years. Eddie Howe you've built that chemistry, that relationship with Eddie Howe. You don't want to break that. And I think that's the only thing that's getting to us is how he's conducting himself. And I think if he had just come out at the beginning of the window and said, look, done an interview, said, I know Liverpool are interested. If a move happens, great. If it doesn't, I'll stay at Newcastle United and I'll give my all for the club. I'd be like, fair play. If it happens, it happens. Doesn't, he's still a Newcastle United player and he wants to play for the club. But if he goes with my best wishes. So it's not about the move in general. It's a principle of how everything's went about, because there's a way you conduct yourself. And no matter what your decision, your agent's saying in the ear, you're a grown man. Do you know what I mean? You make your own decisions. If my agent was saying to me, look, I think you should down tool, I'd just say to him, look, I'm not going to down tool, but you try and get me that move. You do your job and try and get me that move. And I'll just continue to play for Newcastle United, to turn up to pre-season like I do. You work behind the scenes and I'll be okay with that. Do you know what I mean? That's what agents are there for. But the fact that he's actually down tooling, refusing to play, that doesn't sit right with me. And it's not even about Newcastle United. Let's say if Morgan Rogers was doing the same at Villa, I'd be sitting here saying the exact same thing. So it's not the clubs involved. It's the principle of the whole situation that's quite upsetting, if I'm being perfectly honest.
Yeah, but I hear it because, it's quite disrespectful to the fans. I think he's one of the main aspects of it. A player that you've put on sort of like a pedestal, and yeah, he's an amazing player, but you've took that risk to bring him to Newcastle, and he's flourished, and you've all backed him, and then now it's like, you know, and I kind of feel like the situation is a bit weird because he hasn't handed in a transfer request, but he's acting as if he has. Do you know what I mean?
The thing is, the reason why he hasn't is because he won't get his bonuses, so he misses out on roughly about £15 million if he does. So that's a hell of a lot of money, isn't it? And what I will say in this situation is, I get promises happen, and we value him at 150 million. So he's probably looking at that thinking, I'm not getting paid based on my valuation. So from his standpoint, I understand it. Like, you can earn more money, you can win trophies at Liverpool, and you would be unbelievable at Liverpool. So I get it. But what I will say is, imagine if he joined in 2022 and he absolutely stunk out the place at Newcastle United. We couldn't just cut the contract short halfway through. Do you know what I mean? If nobody wanted to buy him at this point and he was scoring 2 goals per season, we wouldn't be able to get rid of him, but we'd still have to pay him. So it's got to work both ways. Do you know what I mean? So like, if he had 1 year left on his contract, I'd understand the noise and him saying I want out, because it would happen. But until Liverpool meet his valuation, then like, Newcastle have got to be firm on it.
Yeah, 100%. You got to back yourselves as well. So we'll talk about your summer recruitment then. I mean, one name in particular, when you were linked with him, I thought, like, if you get Ekitike, I thought that would be unbelievable.
Game changer.
You have been linked with a lot of players that haven't ended up at Newcastle, like Sesko. We've got Delap, Trafford, João Pedro, and Buemo. Sorry to name all of these.
Just remind us once again.
Yeah, but sort of like, you can't fault the ambition as well from Newcastle. But how have you felt sort of like with some of those profiles not coming to Newcastle?
I said this in a YouTube video. I think I can't fault the ambition, but I think we're trying to make that ambition at the wrong time. I don't think we're really there yet. Do you know what I mean? I think to get that level of player, you need to show consistency in the Champions League for 3 or 4, maybe even 5 years running. Do you know what I mean? So I said this at the beginning of the window. If we are targeting those players, I cannot fault the ambition, but I don't think it's the right direction we should be going at this moment. I think we should have stuck to our players where they were show levels of consistency and flashes of brilliance, but there was untapped potential. And I think that's what we should have been looking at, rather than targeting these guys where the Chelseas, the Liverpools would just step up above one. And that's what happens, because there is a food chain in football and there is PSR, which is obviously, you guys don't know that. So I get it. And another thing which has impacted us is I've been present in some negotiations, right? And directors of football are so important. So important. So the fact that we went into our biggest transfer window without a director of football, that has massively impacted our negotiations, and where we're trying to ring up agents and build that relationship. Director of footballs already have that relationship with them. So if you look at Man United with Benjamin Sesko, who's their pretty much a director of football? I know it's a technical of football, but they've got the ex-RB Leipzig guy in. Mm-hmm. So he knows the club, he knows RB Leipzig. So like, he's already in advanced in that situation. So I get it. I get the ambition and I understand it, because if you look at our last Champions League, we looked out of depth at times and we played the same consistent 11 for 12 games in a row, which really impacted our season. So I get the ambition, but for me, I would have built the squad rather than spending so much on one standout player. But this ISAK situation has changed our transfer recruitment this window as well, because at first we're looking for a player that could play alongside ISAK. Then we had to change to look for a player that could replace ISAK. So it's just been a mess, if I'm perfectly honest. But I do think we'll have a good end of the window, and I've said that all along.
Yeah, to be honest, I've said the same about Villa. I feel like it'll come together at the end. But your window actively looks like it is coming. You've signed. Is it? Do you pronounce it Thiaw? Thiaw?
It's Chow.
Chow. Okay, so you've got Chow. You're not going just yet, but Alanga is a good winger. So what are your thoughts on Alanga?
You know what? I like the signing just because he fits our style. dynamic, explosive in open spaces, somebody that is a big threat in the counter-attack, and that's how Nottingham Forest played last season. So I get it, and it is an upgrade on Jacob Murphy. Now, I feel like we do need a more, because you get two types of dribblers when it comes to wingers. You get your electric, dynamic dribblers, or you get your technical dribblers. I feel like we're missing a technical dribbler, somebody that can be comfortable in tight areas, break down low blocks. That's what we're missing on the right wing. Anthony Elanga doesn't really bring that, but I understand the move, and I think it will be a good move all round.
Yeah, nice one. And so, I know you last time you was in the Champions League, it was a bit of a struggle because obviously it was the old format. You didn't get out of the group, but you also didn't qualify for Europe that following season. Yeah. So where are we at now then? What would you say your ambition is for looking at both going into it?
You know what? I think we're going to have a similar season, if I'm being perfectly honest. I think we'll have our moments, however, have our good results, but I think the players will just burn out. Because if you look at our transfers, we haven't built a squad. We've let Dubravka go, we've brought in Ramsey. So we've let one go, but brought one in. So we're not building a squad. We've still got the same size squad. And that's something that we massively lack, just squad depth. So that's my biggest concern. And although Jacob Ramsey is possibly an incoming, we've let Sean Longstaff go. So we've got 4 senior fit midfielders. And we'll play with 3 of them. So we've only got Bruno, Joe Linton, Tonali, and Lewis Miley. So, like, I'm worried about our, like, rotational ability. We struggle. We struggled, and our squad was bigger in our last campaign than it is this campaign. So we need to get bodies in. That's my biggest worry.
I mean, I went into like Villa's Champions League last year thinking, oh, you know what, we cope with Conference League like Thursday to Sunday. It was fine, but I cannot tell you, like, you know, that adrenaline and just that whole occasion, it's massive. It's like
massive.
It's so big on that midweek game, that Champions League, and then you get to the game on the weekend and you're flat. And that's as a fan. Like I got to games and I was like I've got no energy. And I imagine the players feel exactly the same, to be honest. So
I know.
Having that squad is so important.
Thinking back to your season last season, you weren't great after a Champions League night. Am I right in thinking?
Yeah. We hardly won a game, really. I think we probably won about 2 after the group stage. So and I mean, every point's crucial in the Premier League. I mean, you look at Villa last season, we lost out to you guys, Champions League, on goal difference. Like, if we'd have won or drew one more of them games, we'd have got it. So, you know, them games in September after group games, or October or November, if you're not at it, that you're going to pay for that at the end of the season, because
I honestly think that's going to be us again next season. I think we're going to have a similar season at Aston Villa, where, yes, you have good moments and you have good results against big teams, but you're going to struggle at times. And that's what I worry about, especially with this Champions League campaign, because it's an extra 2 games to what we did last time.
Yeah.
Because it was only 6 games in the group stage, which only we played, but now they've got the league format. It's 8 games instead of 6. So it's scary.
Yeah, and it's mad that the Champions League, that group phase, goes into January as well. So your last group game's like mid-Jan, and it's, well, the 20-something in that sort of area of the season. So you're even going into that area of just a group stage. So Aston Villa then, talk to me about Villa. How are you seeing Aston Villa from the outset? I know I've seen some of your bits about Guessand as well. So talk to us, or talk to the Villa fans about what you notice within his game.
Yeah. You know what? I am excited about Aston Villa next season. Again, because sometimes in windows, you keep your prize assets, keeping Morgan Rogers, keeping Ollie Watkins. And I know Ollie Watkins kind of divides opinion, but trust me, he's a goal scorer. I know he misses chances, but he's going to bag your goals and win your games. And that's what you need at times. And I know there's areas for improvement. I get it. But he's a goal scorer, and you're not going to do much better right now with somebody that can just come in and do the job. So I get it. And I really like the Evann Guessand signing. I really, really like this. And I think he's going to probably be the best value for money signing, in my opinion, because I just think he brings that little bit of oomph to Aston Villa's attacking. And sometimes when you don't rotate those attacking players after 3 or 4 years, you miss that little bit of magic. And I think he can insert that to Aston Villa. And I think he's really going to be exciting and dynamic. And I think his profile is really suited to what Unai Emery likes to work with. And I think that's key. So I think, to be honest, I think you've got a real big possible. I know it's this could. I don't mean to sound patronizing because we're in the Champions League and you're not. You're not. But looking at it from the outside in, you've got a real good chance of picking up a trophy. Think about what you've done over the past couple of years. You've qualified for Europe. You've really come off, well, similar to Newcastle United, where you were battling at the bottom end of the Premier League. Now you're competing at the top end of the Premier League. You've gotten the Champions League. You've had those nights, then moments as a fan in the Champions League. What's next? Win the trophy. And I honestly think this is a season Aston Villa win a trophy, whether that be Europa League, which Unai Emery is a specialist in, the FA Cup or the Carabao Cup. If I'm an Aston Villa fan, I want to win a trophy next. And I think this season could be that season. So I'm actually excited. I do think you probably need another centre-half, in my opinion. And I think the centre-halves out there that could just bring you more depth in that position. But when you look at it overall, I think your squad, re-signing Kamara to a new deal is exceptional because I think he's terrific. Yuri Tillemans just getting better year on and year out. Morgan Rogers, always a threat, always dynamic. So yeah, adding Guessand to that is exciting. And it looks like you are targeting another winger from what I'm seeing on social media. I don't know how true that is. So, but again, just adding that squad depth is just going to put you deeper in those cup competitions. And I think that's next for Aston Villa.
I hope so, mate. I mean,
how do you feel?
We seem to do everything that you do the season after. I mean, you get Adidas, we get Adidas. You get Champions League, we get Champions League. So if we mirror what you do, then, like you say, there's a trophy on its way. Yeah,
hopefully so.
Yeah, I think so. I think continuity is quite key. Like we've already mentioned, you know, having the same patterns, the same structures, the way that Emery works, and I think we'll be pretty solid this season, and hopefully our window comes together towards the end. So how do you see this game going then? 12:30. Someone's getting battered, surely, because that's the way that.
Do you want me to be honest?
Go on then.
Do you want me to be honest? Newcastle United are getting battered.
No, they're not.
I honestly, judging by pre-season, we can't create without Alexander Isak.
Really?
And that I'm really worried. Unless Bruno Guimaraes was our only main creator last season. He created the most shots for us, and then it was Alexander Isak. Taking Alexander Isak out of there, it all heavily relies on Bruno. And I think we'll be solid defensively. I think we'll be tough to break down. We'll compete well. But I really can't see us outscoring you guys. So I just can't see us winning that game, especially if Anthony Gordon plays up front, because it's just not the same. He's not as prolific, not as clinical. His movement isn't as good. He's not as intelligent. His link-up's not as good. Although he's a good player, he's not Alexander Isak player. And I think those types of players win you games of football, whether that be just by a short little movement, a little intricate link-up play, or finishing off himself. And I worry about that because Anthony Elanga is still trying to find his feet. So our third highest creator was Jacob Murphy. So taking him out, Anthony Elanga has got to replace that responsibility. So and he's still trying to find his feet, build up those connections, build up that chemistry on the pitch. And without Alexander Isak there, it's even harder. So I just can't see us outscoring you guys. Even if we do score off a set piece, because that's where we've looked dangerous in pre-season, and we haven't looked like scoring in pre-season at all, then I can see you scoring 2 or 3.
So do you think it's because when Isak drops deep, then is that where you think you're creative, when he sometimes drops deep, finds little touches here and there? Is that what you say you're going to miss?
Yeah, if you watch Alexander Isak, what he does all the time is stays offside, and he does it on purpose. So it looks like he's being lazy, but he's actually behind the defensive line. The reason he does that is because, one, it forces you backwards, so it gives our midfielders more room to get on the ball, because we don't have really tight space specialists. So our midfielders need a little bit of room to really get the to get their flow going. So Alexander Isak does that well. And what that also does is allows them just to creep on the blind side. Once a forward that's got pace, power, technical ability gets on the blind side, it's a defender's nightmare. And I don't think Anthony Gordon has that intelligence to create space for others. And that's what I worry about.
So could he play that? What's his name? Osula.
Could
he play? Could he play or not?
I think it's between him or Anthony Gordon. I think it will be Anthony Gordon because Osula's got all the raw materials. He will run the channels. He's powerful. Technical ability is that excellent, but he lacks that decision making. He's just not ready to lead the line in the Premier League. If I'm being brutally honest, although I think he might be in a couple of years' time, at the minute he's not. Now, if he does start Osula, he'll bring a different worry to your centre backs than what Anthony Gordon would. Anthony Gordon would play as a false nine, whereas Osula will try and run the channels. He'll be a bit more combative, aggressive, and try and get in behind that way. But when you watch him play, you can see he's making the wrong movements. He's making the wrong runs at the wrong times. So just that's what I mean by not being ready yet with his decision making on and off the ball. So yeah, he'll have flashes of moments, but they'll come in once in every 10 games where you think, wow, how did he do that? He's playing that in the top corner. But again, it's just he lacks that consistency. So that's what I expect from Newcastle United. And I think, look, our starting 11 can compete with anybody, like I say. But it's just winning that game of football against a top team like Aston Villa. You need your star players. Without Alexander Isak or replacement for Alexander Isak, it's going to be difficult.
What about Matt Targett in the false nine? I've seen him scoring pre-season.
You know what? When he scored, I tweeted out, he's our new striker. Did you hear about him getting left on the plane? Getting left in Asia? Brilliant. Just sums up our summer, doesn't it?
Yeah, so funny, mate. Right, anyway, it's been great having your insight because you are just absolutely class. So I was buzzing when you said you'd come on as well. So I'll put your channel in the title and socials in the description. So Villa fans, go and drop him a follow. So hopefully I'll get you on for the reverse fixture, mate, and have a really good season.
It's been a pleasure being on, and just want to say all the best Aston Villa for the season ahead. Good luck, guys.
Thanks, mate.